Today we have a special exclusive episode with Mr. Sarath Fernando, the CEO of Sri Lankan Catering. Welcome, Mr. Fernando. And we're sitting inside the Semandu restaurant, which is run by the business. And the place looks amazing. You must be really proud of your baby. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit about the restaurant?
The whole concept of us coming to Colombo and having a city restaurant was inspired, one thing, by this building being renovated by UDA and us being invited to be participating in as a restaurateur here. And since we are 100% Sri Lankan government owned entity, and we thought, one, we need to put our hand up. Two, we also thought that this will give us a good opportunity to showcase the talent we have, the Sri Lankan catering, especially highlighting Sri Lankan Airlines food, not at 30,000 feet but on ground, innovative food with excellent service, so that it can value add also to the, not only to the walk-in customers and the people who visit this country, but also it can value add the Sri Lankan Airlines frequent flyers. They can redeem their flights mileage in this restaurant when they dine.
That's interesting. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit about the transition involved from catering exclusively to an airline to handling a restaurant here in Colombo?
When you cater for an airline, I think there are, lots of, we take so much precautions and care, not that we don't care in this restaurant, we take the same amount of care, but at 30,000 feet there is no comeback. So we have to make sure that it's hygienic, and it is at the highest order, so that, we make sure that the passenger who is our customer up there gets, great food. Of course, the service is fantastic at Sri Lankan, so I think that we have a huge responsibility, but it is not only for Sri Lankan. At catering, we look after 13 other airlines, and we actually take care of their image, and we are actually stakeholders, making sure that their particular airline image is, preserved, and we actually are responsible to deliver their expectations. So it is, but when it comes to here, this particular restaurant, I think we are trying to highlight Sri Lankan produce, made very innovatively, produced and presented, and with excellent Sri Lankan hospitality. So having said, Sri Lankan produce, we also have, great international items, from meat items to even things like Atlantic salmon is served here. And it also gives us an opportunity to give cross exposure to our staff. They can come and work in a different environment of the flight catering, and again, be probably encouraged to work in another place, whereas normal flight kitchen entity will be a flight kitchen only. But here now they have an opportunity to work in restaurants, and also we have lounges and all that at the airport, which we look after. Sri Lankan catering, although our predominant focus is on flight catering, and that's our bread and butter, we also take care of a lot of other areas. So if, for example, we look after all the lounges at the Katunayake International Airport. We also look after, Mattala, the transit area and the public area at the Rajapaksa International Airport. Then, of course, we have the transit hotel, which is run under Sri Lankan Catering at Katunayake, which is a 24-hour operation. And we also look after lounges like the Emirates Lounge, which is totally managed by Sri Lankan Catering. And then we have a commercial laundry, which actually launders about 7 to 8 tons of linen every day. We do probably 15,000 blankets a day alone, airline blankets. And we have diversified the operation. and also adding value to our customers, because putting a laundry is not just money making only. We wanted to make sure we take responsibility for all the airlines when it comes to their airline linen, so that not like outsourcing and then if there's an issue we had to deal with third parties. We take the responsibility. Airlines are comfortable, they do their audits, they come and have a look at our laundry. The operation is highly certified, you name it, all certifications are there. And we are also very environmentally conscious. We are very green. We have 14,001, and we are into recycling in a big way. We always want to look after the environment as much as we are doing a lot of things with food and beverage.
Well, could you tell us specifically about the food that you serve on board?
Airline dictates. Any airline will want their food to be the best food. So ultimately, whether it is Sri Lankan is our own. So they are special. At the same time, they would ask certain types of food going out of Sri Lanka, and we are very focused on Sri Lankan flavor when it comes to Sri Lankan. But we are also very focused on looking at different sectors and making sure, looking at the cross section of the passengers who are flying, making sure the majority, as well as the minority is looked after, whether it is a dietary meal, whether it is a kosher meal, a halal meal, or any other dietary requirement. We have to look after. So out of the flight catering, we do average 16,000 meals a day. This is flight catering only, and it goes up to 18 to 20,000 meals sometimes during the peak. And so we know, for us, sector wise we look at the menus, and if it is short sector, then of course the type of meal, because of the flying time and all that, we accordingly work out the menu. But it is in conjunction with the airline, in-flight services of those airlines. They come, they sit with us, we give the presentation of what we think is best, they give their inputs, and then ultimately they do the selection. And because the client rules, so, and Sri Lankan Airlines, they are our owner, but at the same time they are our client. And so we have to make sure, whether it is Emirates, whether it is Saudi Air, whether it is any other airline, British Airways to Turkish Airlines, we do all them. And they all have requests. They want a particular type of meal for a particular type of passenger, and we have to make sure we deliver their expectations. And we are highly audited. All the airlines come and audit us, and they look at the operation. And every day we have daily reports coming through, customer comments, and my policy is we have to reply and rectify within the first 24 hours. So we are 24 hours, 7 days a week, non-stop operation.
And what about inbound travel when there are Sri Lankan flights coming into the country? Do you have operations based in hub stations all across the world?
No, I mean there are some flights we will do back catering, where the aircraft has the facility and also the time factors. Otherwise the airline chooses a particular caterer from that destination, and they make sure that there is definite Sri Lankan flavor in the menus also, in at least in one dish or whatever. So when they request, if the catering needs to get involved and give them recipes, or at times to send a personnel from us to do some training, we are there to help. So otherwise I think because of long haul destinations, we can't cater from there, and we don't have our own bases from those countries.
So could you walk me through the day in the life of the CEO of Sri Lankan Catering?
It's interesting. It's always challenging, and it's not it is not something that I can write and say this is what I do. You know, from a morning meeting, of course, you know, we meet the management, we talk to each other, you know, depending on the availability of managers, you know, and otherwise we have one-to-ones, you know, so it's not that, you know, we are having it every day, but we are in touch every day. But, you know, I get hygiene reports, I get quality assurance reports every day from every area, temperature reports, the food temperatures, the cold room temperatures, the high loaded temperatures when the food get loaded, how long it has been kept on the loading bay, you know, all that is monitored and records kept. If you cook a batch of meals, there is quality assurance and hygiene department. We have 6 microbiologists, you know, they do their testings, they record it, and they also put samples in the freezer. So at any given time, we know how many batches we have cooked. My day is I liaise with the customers. The airlines have, you know, any issues or they want to talk about menus, pricing, you know, or trying to introduce, you know, something else to their particular airline. My managers will always, you know, come looking for answers, looking for advice. Then of course my staff, very, very important, because they are the ones who keep us going, you know, and you know, for them it is, my doors are always open. So, you know, I mean, I have an open door policy. You know, so it's not something that I can say, here it is, this is my program, I stick to a plan, you know, and then in between meetings, you know, training, presentations, you know, meal presentations, all that is happening. So it's quite interesting. It is straining, you know, but that's part of the game, you know. So I don't think you know, you have to enjoy working under pressure, you have to enjoy challenges. I don't believe there are problems, we only have, you know, difficult times or challenges, so we have to overcome them, you know, and we have to continue every day, because every day is an interesting day, because you don't know what brings tomorrow, you know. So, and of course, you know, then the most important thing is I have to maintain the standards, I have to improve the standards, and I have to maintain a healthy bottom line, you know. So after all, it's a business, you know, otherwise all the niceties are not good, you know. You are judged by your performance, of course, you know, and I think you have to make sure that you are you know, a money-making, profitable entity as well.
And initially you mentioned about how the UDA invited you to come in and start this restaurant, and considering that the UDA is spearheading a lot of similar projects across Colombo, are there plans for expansion, tying up with them?
We are actually we are working with now the Ceylon Tea Board, you know, at the race course. There is a tea lounge named Ceylon Tea Moments, you know, very popular. It's been opened only a few months ago by the First Lady, and it is a hit. So we give management support to Tea Board, because again, the reason we got involved is it's a national product. Tea is the most talked about brand if you talk about Ceylon or Sri Lanka. So it's Ceylon Tea, and it is Sri Lankan catering working with Sri Lankan tea. So, and it is great, and that's our ongoing involvement. So who knows?
So tell us a bit about the core values of Sri Lankan catering.